All right, let's go. It's Thanksgiving week. We got 9 games on Monday. We got to get these lineups set the right way. We got to go. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast, a sports ethos presentation hosted by yours truly, Aaron Bruski, me, myself, and I, as I run solo on Mondays. We got lots to cover. We're just going to blast right through it. And also you can watch my counterparts, Steve Alexander and Rick Kamla, on Ethos After Dark tonight. You get that Monday through Thursday. Part of the reason that I'm on today's show solo is so those guys can do those shows at night, maintain a good work-life balance. And we got shows basically every day. We do a weekend show on Saturdays with either Mark Camaro, Panda joins for that show. We'll do a lot of look-ahead stuff for our Saturday shows and look-ahead stuff on Thursday nights when the games are a little bit low. And live here on YouTube Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays with Doc joining me on Wednesdays and Fridays. So, hey, we updated the schedule for you guys. Welcome on Twitter and on YouTube. Thank you guys for your support. Do me a favor, go to YouTube and subscribe to the show. Hit the thumbs up button. That stuff helps us out tremendously, and we appreciate you guys for doing it. It's not my style to be sitting here begging for likes or retweets or whatever the hell the algorithm needs these days, but it is unfortunately the thing that we got to do in order to keep the hamster wheel rolling or whatever have you. Let's also say hello to our sponsor, BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action, the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to the BetOnline website today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. This week is awesome. I'm not paying attention to football. I would love to pay attention to football. All I know is my 49ers suck this year. But you get the Thanksgiving games, you get Thanksgiving, you get all sorts of basketball. 18 teams have 4 games this week. 2 teams have 2 games this week, and everybody else has 3. So what that means is there's a good amount of basketball going on. And like I said in the earlier podcast, which again, in terms of subscribing, you want to subscribe to that podcast directly on your podcast player of choice. We're doing a lot of content on the pod that we're not doing on air. So you want to make sure that you're plugged into both places. But as I mentioned in the pod, we know enough about these guys now to kind of know what we're working with most of the time. There's still some stuff that we're trying to flesh out. But by and large, this month, next month, and January is when the gas pedal is hit full throttle for every team in the league. Even the teams that are tanking aren't really tanking. In fact, Portland and Brooklyn isn't tanking. They're not tanking right now. They're almost more than halfway to their win totals numbers as far as Las Vegas is concerned. So it's just a lot of everybody's just going for it. And it's just great in fantasy leagues because, again, there's just that little hint of not knowing what's what and various storylines throughout the league. So we're going to go over to our companion article now, the layup line, which you can find on our NBA menu. Just get over there to Fantasy Pass. And the first part of the article is free. So if you don't have a Fantasy Pass, don't worry about it. You can get in and just kind of see what we're working with over here. This is a great way to prep for the night's action. So basically, you just get in there. You can see over-unders. You can see key storylines, streams of the game. Keston Paul wrote this one. Keston Paul is one of the best fantasy writers that there is. He's done the work. He's done the blurbs. And basically, blurbing is the equivalent of push-ups or, wax on, wax off, if you will. And folks who do blurbs, player updates, whether it's here or other places, they just have so many reps with this stuff that it just shows up in their work and you just see it all day, every day. Keston has written up another good one here. So we'll use that as our companion article, so to speak. And we're starting with Toronto at Detroit. Detroit a 5-point favorite. 221 on the total. Some key storylines here. Bruce Brown is back and questionable, I should say, but he's more or less back. And he talked about the thing that really annoyed us all last season because Bruce Brown wasn't Bruce Brown. He got paid, went to Indy, got traded, and it was the knee, as we suspected all along. And he just didn't look the same. Well, he says that it's better. So what does this mean? Does Bruce Brown actually become something of a Bruce Brown from the past? Can he be a top 100 guy? Can he be a top 125 guy? Can he be a top 150 guy? We don't know, but if you want to get ahead of the curve, keep an eye out for Bruce Brown. He's definitely on your waiver wire. Just don't be surprised if a lot of athletes will kind of talk big game about being okay, and then it doesn't actually happen. But if he is okay, especially for this kind of team, he could fit in quite nicely, and then also possibly be a foil for Ochai Agbaji. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as well. We also got Grady Dick as doubtful with some calf soreness. This popped up last game, and that was sort of an end of the game thing. He played a lot of minutes, but this hit the radar. There wasn't a lot of reporting on it after the game. Well, now we got the reporting on it. So Grady Dick, this is it's been a bit of a slide for him, and this obviously isn't good. I think the hype might have died down to the point where if you're thinking about trading him, it just doesn't make any sense right now. Just hang on to him, and the hope will be that the breakthrough, I don't want to say breakout, but he's breaking through a little bit. Maybe he can be a top 75 guy. Maybe he can be a top 100 guy. But this is why we, or I should say, I was really pushing you guys to consider trading while the going was good, because now it's going to get a little bit crowded again. And there's just a question whether he can be versatile enough with the stat set to be, a top 100 guy going forward. And did he get an early start on the league, and the league actually just make a mistake closing out to the 3-point land too hard, not knowing that he actually had dribble drive game, not giving him the respect he deserves. Emmanuel quickly has about 10 more games that he's going to be out. So just keep that in mind as you make your evaluations on the Toronto side. On the Detroit side, Cade Cunningham is doubtful. This is probably putting quite a bit of anxiety into folks, and rightfully so. This does not seem to be too bad. I'll say for now, as it stands right now, this doesn't seem to be too bad. But that trepidation that you hear in my voice, that's essentially from all of the prior seasons of that not being great. And so we'll keep a close eye on that. As far as things I'm watching for in this Detroit game, can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm watching out for Beef Stew. Beef Stew has been better than Jalen Duren all season long. He had another good one in the last game. He's probably, without looking it up, at about a top 100, top 110 value on the season. And with the ankle situation for Jalen Duren, I mean, Duren, every time I say the ankle is an issue, he reaches up and he plays 30 plus minutes in a game. It's not that he's really just killing it, because he's not. He's barely hanging inside the top 150. I think this ankle situation and this whatever's happening with Jalen Duren, that he's not as effective as he could be. The key thing for him is blocks. And can he just use this? He's like a beast out there in terms of being a 20-year-old that's got those arms, those shoulders, that stature. He should be dominating, and he's not. So I think something's not right there. And maybe it's the ankles. Maybe he's just too top heavy. Whatever he's got to do to make that equation work, that's the next step for him. And it doesn't look like it's going to be happening this season. Loved him last season, faded him this season for the most part. And wouldn't you know, Beef Stew, Isaiah Stewart is, to me, somebody that, I mean, in a 10-team league with intermediate owners, if you will, I don't know if he's a must roster guy. But in a 12-team league, if you've got one center, he should be rostered in a lot of those leagues, if not most, if not all. But if you got like two centers or you got deeper benches, absolutely he should be rostered, because if something does happen with Jalen Duren, then you're really looking at the possibility that Beef Stew finally figured it out after years of being pimped by fantasy analysts incessantly and it never happening. This might be the year for Beef Stew. So that's exciting. And otherwise, on the Detroit side, can Tim Hardaway Jr. start to eat into Malik Beasley's production? Beasley's taken over the Tim Hardaway Jr. role, and Tim Hardaway Jr. has just not been himself since returning. So Malik Beasley's definitely worth rostering right now. Tim Hardaway Jr. is not worth rostering. And does anybody step up with Cade Cunningham out, that the Marcus Sassers of the world? Does anybody step up and reach up and have an unlikely game for you DFS folks out there? Would be something that I'm watching out for. Let's keep it moving over to Orlando at Charlotte. Charlotte comes into this one a 6-point dog at home. You've got Franz Wagner, who's going off. Not a lot of mystery for this squad, except Jalen Suggs is questionable with a hamstring. issue, and he only played 9 minutes in the last one for him and his injury history. And again, this kind of goes back to that first 10 games thing. When he was a top 50 guy, when he was a top 40 guy, questioning, can he keep this going? Is he really a top 45 guy? Is he more like a top 75 guy with injury risk? Well, the shooting fell off, and now the injuries are hitting. So sometimes it feels like you just want to hang on and ride the wave. You need to figure out when to get off the wave. That's half the battle with this game. He is probably out, if I had to guess. Maybe not. Who knows? But he's questionable right now. Wendell Carter's questionable with left foot plantar fasciitis. If he comes back, does Goga go back to the bench? I think you just hold on to Goga, and then the minute that he goes back to a DNP role, you can just move on. But Goga, with a nice little stat set, some blocks, the occasional three, but the blocks and the big man stats can make him pretty valuable pretty quick. He's been a late round value on the season in his limited role. Problem is he just goes back to being on the bench whenever Wendell comes back. If that happens, then that's the conundrum there. And then Mo Wagner just sort of cruises along at a top 175 value, usually, regardless of what's going on with the other two big men. So we'll be watching out for that on the Orlando side. On the Charlotte side, Grant Williams' season is over. So it's going to put a bunch of different guys on the radar. We also have Mark Williams and Nick Richards playing in the G League. So they're getting close, guys. I had somehow wandered my way into some Mark Williams shares. And then I was like dumping those shares. And then I was like picking them back up this Sunday and thinking, man, maybe this could be a thing. And then boom, we get the G League news. So I feel a lot better about taking a shot there with Mark Williams in some places I really need a center. And so they're going to be back. I couldn't tell you which one will be back first. I can't tell you if they'll be valuable. What we'll say about Nick Richards is in his 4 or 5 games when he did play, he was averaging 2.7 blocks per game. That had been the issue with him. Not most of everything else was fine. It was just a mid-level, low-level big man with decent athleticism, running up and down the floor, having some decent moments from time to time. Just was never blocking shots. Maybe Charles Lee said, "Hey, go block some shots, big guy." That would be a difference in the way they go. And then I'm getting in my ear here that they're not going to play in the G League, so that's too bad. I believe what's that? Greensboro, the Charlotte G League franchise, they're getting robbed of some Nick Richards and Mark Williams minutes, but those guys will be back. Moussa Diabate, that's not going to leave a lot of space for him to be productive. I know that there was a tiny bit of hype about him, and then it's just not going to probably happen, at least here in the short term. So the question becomes, okay, if the big man slots are all taken up, what are you doing with the Grant Williams thing? And I think the answer there is Cody Martin. I think Cody Martin probably is the most similar player in terms of body type. This is a guy that's had a good fantasy stat set in the past. The injuries have been what they've been. They're not going away anytime soon. It's a Greensboro swarm. Thank you very much, Andre. The Cody Martin stuff is great, right? Like, we've been Cody Martin fans in the past. We've seen him have top 100 value in the past, maybe even some top 75 value when things are going really well for him. So he's going to have a shot here at top 125. I think that's probably the marker for him going forward. As long as he stays healthy, if the position's his, I think. So he's kind of locked in here. And I don't think he's been getting that much attention. So he's probably available on your wire. So I would be rostering him unless my roster was packed. 12-team leagues, 10-team, maybe it's a little bit debatable. Maybe you have players that have less injury risk on those rosters. But yeah, other than that, he's good to go. So I'll be watching to see how that turns out for us. And then Trey Mann, his back continues to bother him. But if there's not a third scorer on the floor, if Miles Bridges, who's kind of day to day or maybe even week to week, if he's not on the floor, then Trey Mann is a top 100 guy, just kind of flat out. And yeah, he's got his own injury issues right now, but just know that that's part of the equation. So we'll keep an eye on how all of those injuries shift through the coming weeks. And we'll move it along to New Orleans at Indy. Again, on the pod, I was able to talk at length about Tyrese Halliburton and what I saw there. I think he's not up to full speed. I think he's still stiff with the back issue. I think in the first of 4 home games, he showed that he's not going away. I do think he needs some rest, but in terms of a buy low, if you're looking to go buy low, I think at home the splits have been pretty decidedly old Tyrese, with the road stuff being this version that nobody wants, that nobody likes. So if you're looking to try to get a buy low in, it's probably now. and especially against the Pelicans squad that's probably willing to give up some stats. Though Indiana on the back-to-back might be a little bit tired, -6.5 for Indy in this game, but playing a great up-tempo, brand of ball. Looking at the big men's slots to see if Jarris Walker can be anything. Another top 150-ish line for him in the last one. Obi Toppin more like top 200. So neither of these guys reaching up to the stars and doing anything special. Moses Brown had so I forget, it was like 15, 16 points in his 12 minutes in this last game. Again, let's all tap the brakes on Moses Brown just a little bit. I think if anything, he might have some top 200 value. That's the upside there right now for him. And then on the Pelicans side, CJ McCollum coming back. Brandon Ingram is questionable. What else we got here? We got Yves Missi probable, right shoulder soreness. The Herbert Jones watch is kind of on. We're not getting a ton of info there, but it feels like he will be back in the next week. I'm being told that people want to know about TJ McConnell being a hold. Sure, TJ McConnell does what he does. He just does what he does. If TJ McConnell was valuable for you, he just does what he does. And I think he will do it for the rest of the season. I think this team, especially with Ben Shepherd out for a while, they now have enough slots for everybody. We'll talk again when we get Andrew Nemhard and Aaron Neesmith back. I think that'll complicate matters, but there's plenty of room for more injuries to occur. And I think TJ McConnell is just going to keep doing TJ McConnell stuff. So just hang on there. Back to the Pelicans side, DeJounte Murray is looking to return Wednesday against the Raptors. So you're getting a lot of players back. So your back end guys, your Jordan Hawkins, your Brandon Bostons, they're all going to slide. I think Brandon Boston has a shot at late round value for like the back half of this season. I think this next, say, 1 month stretch will be bad for him. He'll find his way back to waiver wires. I want to see what Missi can do overall. This last 2 to 3 weeks for him, he hasn't been getting blocks. He's been kind of all over the board. And what I just want this young man to do is get blocks and boards, and everything else will come as it comes. And that's really the only thing that he should be focusing on, as long as he's trying to please us fantasy GMs, of course. And I say that tongue in cheek. I think that's it for the Pelicans side. So let's get on into who's up next. Clippers in Boston. Okay, this is a better reality game than fantasy game. I think we know most of what's going on for both squads. We get Kristaps Porzingis probable, left ankle probable. My God, talk about beating a timetable. I don't know. I mean, if you did it, it wasn't wise to do it, to draft Porzingis early, the hopes that he was going to make this kind of a return. And who knows how this even goes. I mean, back-to-backs, probably not likely anytime soon. Pardon me. I think, in a best case, something to do with back-to-backs gets lightened occasionally in like March. And then in April, they'll dial it back. Maybe even late March, they'll dial it back. If you can manage the games missed, it's going to be great. I mean, Porzingis is just a monster, especially on this squad. And when he's on the floor, they're going to feed him. He'll be a permanent monster. In terms of the team itself, Nemish Keita was not doing anything. What's his name? Cornet. He's not doing anything. So there's no real impact here. I mean, maybe it takes some usage from some other guys, but again, the production and the minutes are going to be so dense that I don't know that there's going to be a real noticeable difference for guys like Jason Tatum or Derek White or Jaylen Brown. Drew Holiday's not really producing. He's been kind of a top 150 guy. So I think this is just good news for the Celtics and good news for folks who had Kristaps Porzingis in an IR slot, or heaven forbid that you had him on an active roster where the IR slot wasn't in play. You win. And we'll see how it all goes from here. Horford, doubtful. So maybe Keita gets a little bit of extra run here, but not likely, not anything I'll be jumping to go get. Though that said, Cornet is doubtful, and in the first game back for Porzingis, they'll probably go pretty light with him. So I guess maybe if you're desperate in a deep league, Keita might have a shot at one last good game before the going gets bad. On the Clippers side, you got Norm Powell doubtful with the hamstring, so that's pretty much what we expected. Mo Bamba is not playing, so that slows his role. He'd been on about the 225, 250 range, in about the 225, 250 range, I should say, which was decent, since coming back. I think folks had some questions about whether or not he could be productive. Interesting enough stat set in some regards to kind of at least keep one eye on him. Otherwise, everybody that's been rolling is going to roll. And Derek Jones is the little quasi winner of the Norman Powell's out for a couple games sweepstakes. Instead of being a top 140 guy, he's more likely to be a top 120 or top 100 guy. And 140 plays in a lot of leagues. So you probably, if he's sitting out there, you grab him, enjoy the bump, and then you can consider dropping him after the bump. Let's go into Dallas at Atlanta. Dallas coming off a nice back-to-back thrilling game against Miami. So they might be a little bit tired for this one in Atlanta, depending on where they stopped the night before. Dallas, Luka out with the right wrist injury. So therefore, you're going to see a lot of production across the board from a few different guys. And I'm not changing valuations for too many of them too much, but give them an extra round or two bump from where they're at right now. And that will probably do the trick. It's actually a really accurate bellwether of things to come. Najee Marshall has been decent, not great, but decent, and might work for you in a streaming situation or in a DFS situation more appropriately. On the Atlanta side, as mentioned in the pod, I'm really watching to see how Bogdan Bogdanovic impacts Dyson Daniels, not just quantity, but the quality of touches. Like, it's going to move Dyson Daniels into some better shots for sure, because better players on the floor means better shots for everybody generally, but it might take away some of the easy pickings that he's had access to being on the ball more. So does the efficiency pop up for Dyson Daniels? As I mentioned on the pod, this guy is producing top 20 a little bit ago. I wouldn't value him lower than top 50 or top 60, but there has been times in the past where he's been struggling to stay top 100 when the going's good. That was in the past. This is crazy nuclear red hot Dyson Daniels we're talking about this season with averaging almost 4 steals a game. This could be, though, the beginning of a little bit of a downslide, a longer trajectory downslide for him. And I hate bringing it up because people are rightfully thrilled with Dyson Daniels, and he's definitely taken multiple steps forward on offense. Defensively, obviously a menace, and there's nothing but superlatives to say about Dyson Daniels. I just feel like almost you have to be the I got to just be an adult about it and just tell you guys, hey, if somebody's willing to give you an early round player for Dyson Daniels, I think you got to do it. And that's that might come bite me in the butt later, but I just think that is just something you have to at least consider depending on the players involved. This is Fantasy NBA Today, presented by Bet Online. We're probably going to get to some questions toward the end of the show if I can stop yapping so much and just keep moving through these games. If not, get to our Discord. We got plenty of pros in there answering questions, and send us questions on Twitter and either to the show at Ethos Fantasy NBA, or you can send it to me at Aaron Bruski. I'll try to get around to some questions here if I can later today. We got next up Portland at Memphis. Lots of fun stuff going on for Portland. Robert Williams I can't imagine he wouldn't play in this one. He's off the injury report. You got Klingon. He's out. I believe that's a lock. Interesting. How long will Klingon be out? I didn't know that was as locked in. It felt like he was doubtful. If he's been ruled out, I want to know. I'll scoot over to our injury page here in a second and see if that's the case. We've got DeAndre Ayton out, so you're going to get full Robert Williams tonight. That's crazy. I hope they don't burn him out, but 25 minutes a game, he could have easily a top 10 line. He's been doing that for the most part. So Robert Williams, it's been fun. You just ride this until the wheels fall off. Probably always worthy of considering trading him while the going is good, but you just like what you're working with, for the foreseeable future. If you've got Robert Williams or Donovan Klingon, though this weird little, this injury note I'm looking at here has got me all weirded out. Other than that, Scoot questionable with the quad contusion. Right now it's Shadon Sharp getting all of the quote, inefficient chucker minutes, though Shadon's been a little bit more efficient lately. I think he's a late round guy this season going forward, as long as he's healthy. Just ride the ups and downs. And especially if you can punt in his deficient areas, he gets a lot more interesting. But he and Scoot are going to be like that. Anthony Simons is back and cracking. So you get a little bit of normalcy in that regard. Damani Kamara getting recognized as one of the steals guys in this league and a great defender. So I think he will be a top 100 play kind of the rest of the season. And I think, Banton's fallen off and Avdia's getting hot. Avdia's struggled this year. And we got left knee sprain, Donovan Clingan out per Blazers PR. Boo. He had 19 boards, some crazy, I think 3 or 4 blocks and a steal and 0 points the other day. I think we're going to call that line a Clingan because I haven't seen that in a long time. New York Knicks at Denver Nuggets. The juicy line from a reality perspective. Denver -4 in this game. Jokic back. So you got a little bit of normalcy there from the Denver side of the line, and everybody can kind of fall back into old patterns. Though Russell Westbrook pretended like Jokic wasn't around. He had a big line in the last one. I don't think that's probably going to happen again. Peyton Watson probable on that side. Just ride him till the wheels fall off, i.e. Aaron Gordon returns. Feels like Gordon could be returning within the next week or so. So that's something to watch because that will rebalance this team one more time. And then Christian Brown slowing down a little bit. I want to see if he has it in him to kind of reach up and have a bigger top 50 like game that he was having more regularly early in the season. He's sort of fallen back into more of a top 75, 100 posture, but that's fine. You're playing with house money. He's already got you paid. You just kind of keep rolling him out here, and he will be fine for the rest of the season. On the next side, everybody's doing great on that side of the line, though. Karl-Anthony Towns is questionable, left calf. Really, I would be mostly concerned, not about production with Cat, just will Tom Thibodeau and he himself, Cat, as a participant with this, will he run himself into the ground? And will he end up either seeing that in the efficiency numbers or will he see that in the injury numbers? Questionable with a left calf. Other than that, it's all gravy right now in New York. All the starters are just playing an amazing number of minutes per game. And it's fun if you have New York Knicks on your roster right now, especially OG Anunoby and Josh Hart. Brooklyn at GSW, 1-800-GSW-HOOPS. Brooklyn comes out of Sacramento with a win last night. So I don't know if they feel like they got the one that they wanted. So maybe a little bit of a letdown. Dennis Schroeder questionable with a right ankle. Cam Thomas questionable with a back issue. He took a fall. It was a weird looking thing. It almost looked like he was flopping, but he wasn't. And then he stood up and he basically more or less stood in the game. He's questionable with his back issue. I don't know if he wants to sit. I think that guy just wants to play and chuck. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's out there. We got Dorian Finney-Smith on the injury report. Noah Clowney is all of a sudden doubtful with the ankle. Ben Simmons is out. So you get a little bit of a skeleton crew here. Zaire Williams has not been good lately, but he might be called upon to be good in this game since he didn't play too much in the last one. And that would probably at least give him a shot at getting some more minutes in this one. Jalen Williams did get a lot of minutes in the last one. He didn't do anything with them. It was a weird, when the Kings play, the box score can get a little bit weird. Just sometimes it's something I've noticed over the year. Not so much in the last couple of years, but it sort of flattened out that box score a little bit for Brooklyn. So I don't know. I'm not thinking Jalen Smith is going to be great, but if he was better than he was in the last one, because he got a lot of minutes in the last one and he should have been a lot better than he was, maybe this is the time where he bounces back for you DFS folks or anybody looking to stream in a deep situation. But I think I don't know who's going to reach up and get the numbers in this one. They got a lot of guys that are dinged up that would be the recipients of the value. Nick Claxton was pretty good in the last one. I don't know if he'll pop up on the injury report, but he actually looked kind of healthy. So I think Claxton is, for those of you who've been suffering through the Claxton start, I think Claxton might actually start being good now. So, a lot of big problems with that, with the tanking situation, though Brooklyn's won a lot of games. I don't think that's going to continue. They are 12.5 point underdogs in this one. And Golden State, Kuminga, questionable with an illness. Obviously, Melton's out for the season, so you guys already knew that. But Kuminga being gone didn't exactly loosen things up for the bench. Buddy Hield was decent in the last one. I've got a buy low out there on Buddy Hield. I think he's just fine. doing what he's doing right now. He'll be at a 125 level if he just keeps doing what he's doing right now. And if he does great, he has top 50 potential in him for this squad. Lindy Waters is nailing down that starting job. And right now, the Warriors are winning. So I don't think Steve Kerr has a lot of pressure to change things right now. But eventually, whether it's Lindy Waters getting dinged up, Lindy Waters not hanging on to the starting job, or them just wanting to generate more offense out of Buddy Hield, figuring out how to play with him on the second unit or get him into the mix with Draymond and Steph and some of their better passers, both Hield and Podziemski especially. I mean, talk about a guy who's got a lot of hype and all of this, that, and the other coming into the season. For him to be at his level, at least the Warriors have to think, we don't want this to happen to him. So maybe something, that hitting rock bottom there would also necessitate a change for Steve Kerr, whose rotations have become a massive topic in the NBA ever since the Olympics and even prior to that. But really this season, you got more people out there shouting from the mountaintops, like, what are you doing with Trace Jackson Davis? What are you doing with, Brandon Podziemski? What's going on, with, Kuminga kind of getting shoehorned into all these roles that really aren't, for him. There's a lot going on there with Golden State, but they're winning. So they'll just kind of keep rolling it out there until they start losing. And we'll watch out for that when it happens. Andrew Wiggins on a nice little heater. And let's move it along to Oklahoma City at Sacramento. Oklahoma City, just a 4-point favorite on the road. That's probably okay. Sacramento lost at home to Brooklyn, and they have this thing where they play down to the teams that are below them and they play up to the teams that are above them. I think they were overlooking Brooklyn, and now you're going to see Sacramento come out and play like gangbusters in this one. So we're going to be watching this. Malik Monk, can he possibly get back on the floor? I kind of think he can, and I think after the loss he'll push to play. And the internal narrative in Sacramento, as they try to explain and talk themselves out of the DeMar DeRozan impact, is that the bench can't score. So Malik Monk will be a kind of a easy to grab reason to let him play, is to get that bench quote unquote going. The reality is that DeMar DeRozan takes the air out of the ball, and he's playing well. He's doing what DeMar DeRozan does. He's playing well, but nobody else is getting into a rhythm. Sacramento's 8-9. I expect them to come out and play like gangbusters. De'Aaron Fox has been stepping it up lately. Domantas Sabonis has been stepping it up lately in terms of statistical production. This DeMar DeRozan thing is, just the elephant in the room over there. Keon Ellis had great minutes as usual, not getting enough of them, not able to produce within this structure that they have. He's still a top 175 guy despite all of these challenges. Will they figure it out in Sacramento? No, I think they're going to keep stepping on the rake. Eventually, Keon Ellis will be cut loose and he will just go and go and go, and everything will be great there. In my current 200 player leagues, I've held him in about half of them, maybe 40 or 33% even. So even myself, as high as I am on Keon Ellis, I can't bring myself to just hang on while the Kings are just completely, right? You have 4 players that need the ball. You need defense on the floor. You need shooting on the floor. There's one player who gives you all of that. His name is Keon Ellis, and you can't figure it out. Maybe there's something wrong in Sacramento. They've been playing the right moves for a while, for the last year or two. This one, they're completely botching it, and that's okay. And it's not Kevin Huerter's fault. Huerter is just doing what Kevin Huerter does. It's just management, coaching. They've kind of outsmarted themselves on this one. And we'll see if they can get this turned around and if Keon Ellis can erupt for another 9 3-pointers or whatever. Oh, my God, Keon Ellis. Come on, guys. You guys can do this. On the Oklahoma City side, as we're going to get out of here and maybe take some questions. I don't know, Andre, you can let me know. Oklahoma City side, Lou Dort has really, really picked up the pace. He's a top 80 guy all of a sudden on the season because those cash counting stats of threes, steals, and blocks, they're so powerful. He's been pumping it up in those categories. And now with Chet Holmgren out and, kind of a who's who of Isaiah Joe being questionable, you got other guys that like Alex Caruso, he's out, so his 20 minutes are off the board. Dort might just be that, at least a late round guy, but maybe a top 100 guy for say the next, month, maybe a month or two. And so a lot of people have faded Dort, and it's maybe time to consider that he could have a little bit of a fall off because what goes up must come down. But he's certainly gotten the attention and is the temporary winner of the Who's Going to Have Value with Chet Holmgren out sweepstakes, unless you, of course, want to discount Jalen Williams, who has moved into the number 6 slot overall on a per game basis in 9 cat leagues because he's freaking amazing. And we love him. And it's just awesome to watch both he and Shea as top 6 fantasy guys playing for the same team. And we'll be watching for Isaiah Hartenstein, who had a top 50 line in his first game back. I just think he's one of the best big men in the league. So, I'm just happy. And I have him a lot of places. And it was after the injury happened. So I got him at a significant discount and just thrilled for that. Okay. We got a big audience. Thank you guys for showing up and giving us all that support. If you guys have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. Hit the thumbs up button so we can keep pumping this algorithm, so we can keep adding stuff here at Sports Ethos. We want to be one of the biggest investors in the fantasy basketball and fantasy sports space and ultimately the NBA space as a whole. So your guys' support for a company that wants to actually put money in the middle is greatly appreciated. We thank you very much for that. I want to get to some questions. Andre, do we have any questions from folks? I'm sure we do. I would love to hear them if we do. Jeffrey Miles asks, whoops, that one went off the board real quick. If we could get that last one back on the board, or I'll just go to Daniel Paisley. Is Nick Richards a good stash? I think Nick Richards is a good stash. I mean, not only do you have the Mark Williams questionable for probably the foreseeable year or two, I don't think anybody's going to be comfortable with Mark Williams until he has played a full season. So you get Nick Richards. And as mentioned earlier in the show, if there's a change in philosophy, if Charles Lee has told him to go out and get blocks, it changes everything for him. This has been a guy that's been getting big board totals, decent points, good field goal percentage, and not getting you any blocks. And that's made him more of a top 120 guy. If he is a 1.5, heaven forbid, a 2 block per game guy, well, that changes everything. And he becomes a top 50 guy. So I do think that along with, the questionable aspect of Mark Williams, I think that makes him a great stash. I just keep your expectations in check. We're talking about a 4 or 5 game sample here at the beginning of the year. That doesn't negate a couple of years. Looks like we got HXSI Central, Hizzy Central. Hopefully got that right. Who's a better pick, Mark or Nick? I think the better pick is probably Mark. And I hate saying that. He's the guy that they're sort of mostly invested in. Nick is in trade rumors. He's probably been talked about by multiple teams around the league. I don't think anybody wants to get into the Mark Williams game. I think that's Charlotte's game for the foreseeable future. So if Nick gets traded, that's not going to be good for his value, probably. So I think it's Mark here, and that's not comfortable to say because of the aforementioned upside. I do feel like, maybe they're onto something, and maybe both of these guys will be valuable in, say, a 24-24 split. Jeffrey says, Jimmy for Hallie, too little? ? Evaluating this trade, I think Jimmy Butler is going to play at, say, a top 30 level the rest of the season when on the floor. And Hallie has this ability in his stat set to reach up and be a top 12 guy pretty easily. Now, I would put the injury risk for both players at about the same. I think Jimmy wants to play this season. Of course, Hallie wants to play this season. Hallie has to get this back thing figured out. But the minute the back thing gets figured out, especially as this team loses their big men, Miles Turner, if anything happens to them, this team's going to be so small. They're going to try to run up and down the floor and beat people in the pace game. Stats are going to be everywhere. Hallie, I do not want to, I don't want to undersell the troubles that he's had. It's certainly not the Hallie that we saw last year. When I saw Hallie in the first couple of weeks last year of preseason, I thought, oh my God, he's got a faster first step. It was the thing he needed. It was the thing he was missing, to really put him over the top. And this year he just doesn't have it. And it shows up on defense. It shows up on offense. And at home, his splits are different than on the road, as discussed a million times here on this show. So we know he's capable. In the last 2 games, I watched him pretty closely. He went at Giannis, like pretty aggressively. He went at Andre Jackson not as aggressively, but against Giannis, he really went, and try to get his. And so the aggression is there. He's very frustrated. You can see it all over his face. Um, I think he knows that that's like iffy if he's going to be as productive as last season. So it's kind of getting in his head a little bit. It's in the heads of everybody in Indy. You can see it. TJ McConnell walked up to him at the end of the game as he was getting the walk-off interview because he had a big fat line. TJ McConnell practically looked like he wanted to give him a hug. I think they're concerned in Indy. All that said, like, you might end up with a top 12 fantasy asset instead of a top 31. And I think the injury risk is the same. So I like the Hallie side. Kai, will Osar Thompson play tonight? Something weird happened with the injury reporting. He's off the injury report. I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you I have a crystal ball and know if he's going to play or not. If he's not playing, it's because they are just flat out bringing him along up to speed in practices and saying he's not injured. So therefore he's not on the injury report, but he's also, not yet ready for action. But to me, I mean, they need him. There's Ron Holland is not ready for the NBA and he's playing 10, 15, 20 minutes a game. So I think he fits right into that slot. I think he fits exactly what they need to do. And I think he's going to be good once he gets in. I think he took a lot of steps forward off the floor this season. Obviously couldn't crank the workouts up all the way, but I think everything I've seen of him just looks like he's absorbed the game and he's improved in several aspects. So it might be really interesting to watch him step on the floor. If there's like a wow moment, like, wow, this guy took a couple steps forward, it wouldn't shock me. WS asks, Karis LeVert or Lou Dort? Give me Lou Dort. LeVert's got those injury issues. Ty Jerome, the great Andre Lamouche tried to talk me off my Craig Porter Jr. ledge. I didn't rank Craig Porter like super high in the B150 because it just wasn't there for him this year. But he kept saying, Ty Jerome. And I was like, nah. Well, guess what? Ty Jerome is that dude. Ty Jerome is crushing it. He had another huge one on the season. In his 18 minutes a game, he's still hitting like 60% of his shots, but he's a top 115 guy in limited minutes. And now he's getting more minutes. And I just think that will eventually eat up Karis LeVert's value. They don't need as much Karis LeVert chucking as they would if Ty Jerome wasn't being Ty Jerome right now. So Karis LeVert, I don't even know who that was. Dort. I just like Dort's spot. A little bit more durable as well. Okay. We're going to have some true false coming after this start sit one. Do I go with Peyton Watson with 3 games this week or Goga with 4? Mr. Jason, I think, unfortunately, you got to go with Peyton Watson with 3 games. That's not too bad. I mean, there are 18 teams with 4 games this week, I believe. So it's a lot of games on the board this week. So the 3 with Peyton doesn't feel great. But you know what? Gordon's not back yet. You're going to be mostly fine with Peyton. Just take the low-end game or low-end week and be happy with it because Goga might get DNPs, as sad as it is. Okay, I think we got a true false question coming up here. This is going to be our last one here from Daniel Paisley. True or false? Jalen Johnson will be top average 20 pick next draft season. Yeah, give it to me. True. I think the big poppy numbers that he's producing, there are some efficiency issues that have kept him from really truly capitalizing upon the value that it appears that he has this season. I think that maybe people spent a little bit too much to not give themselves room for upside. But I think this will be, by and large, viewed as an amazing season for him. The breakout that happened last season that didn't really get to happen because Kyle Kuzma's Kyle Kuzma, that I think it will all come to bear that he is a top 20 draft pick next season. And that's going to do us for Fantasy NBA Today, a Sports Ethos production. Thank you to our partners at BetOnline. Thank you guys for showing up. This is a great show, great audience. Appreciate those great questions. And please do hit the like and subscribe button on your way out. The show has been presented by BetOnline. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, be well.